The cargo ship Starling's Hope was dying. Pogdoyan knew this because he could hear the metal screaming around him. The ship shook so hard that his teeth rattled in his skull. Red warning lights flashed everywhere. Alarms screamed from every speaker. The whole world had become noise and fire and fear. Doyen grabbed a metal pipe on the wall and held on with everything he had. He was in the engineering bay, surrounded by machines that were now sparking and exploding. Smoke filled the air. He could barely see. He could barely breathe. The ship had been fine just 10 minutes ago. They were making a simple delivery run to Relay Station Omega-7. Easy job. Good pay. Nothing dangerous. But then something hit them. Maybe space debris. Maybe a failed engine. Do-Yoon did not know. All he knew was that one moment everything was normal, and the next moment the ship was falling apart. "Yuna!" He shouted into the smoke. "Yuna, can you hear me?" No answer came. Kim Yuna was the pilot. She was in the cockpit at the front of the ship. That was far away from where Do-Yoon stood now. He needed to reach her. He needed to know she was alive. The ship hit something. Maybe the station's landing dock. Maybe the ground. It did not matter. The impact threw Do-Yoon across the room like he weighed nothing. He flew through the air and slammed into a wall of machinery. Pain exploded through his body. Then more things fell on top of him. A heavy metal beam crashed down on his chest. He heard his ribs break. The sound was wet and horrible. More debris fell on his left arm. He felt the bones snap in 2 places. His shoulder twisted wrong, and his collarbone cracked. Something massive landed on his right leg and bent it in a direction. Legs should never bend. The pain was like nothing Do-Yoon had ever felt. It was not just pain anymore. It was his whole world. White-hot, burning, screaming through every part of his body. He could not think. He could not move. He could only lie there in the wreckage and try to remember how to breathe. Seconds passed. Maybe minutes. Do-Yoon was not sure. The alarms kept screaming. The smoke kept rising. Fires burned somewhere nearby. He could feel the heat on his skin. Then he heard it. A voice, weak and far away, but a voice. Help. Someone help? It was Yuna. She was alive. She was calling for help. Do-Yoon opened his eyes. The world was blurry and dark. Smoke stung his eyes. Blood dripped down his face from a cut on his forehead. Every breath sent knives through his broken ribs. But none of that mattered now. Yuna was alive. Yuna needed help. He tried to move. His body screamed at him to stop. The pain was so bad that black spots danced in his vision. But he did not stop. He could not stop. Not while she was in danger. Do-Yoon pushed against the beam on his chest. His broken arm was useless. His broken collarbone made every movement feel like torture. But his right arm still worked. Barely. He pushed and pushed until the beam shifted just enough for him to slide out from under it. Now he had to stand. His right leg was destroyed. He could see the bone pushing against his skin. It was not sticking out, but it was close. Very close. That leg would not hold his weight. He knew this. He tried anyway. The moment he put pressure on it, he fell. The pain was so intense that he almost passed out. His vision went white. His stomach tried to empty itself. He tasted blood in his mouth, but Yuna was still calling. Her voice was weaker now. More scared. Please. The fire? Someone? Dawn started crawling. He used his one working arm and his one working leg to drag himself across the floor. The metal was hot. Broken glass cut into his palm and his knee. Every movement was agony. Every inch felt like a mile. The engineering bay was destroyed. Machines had fallen everywhere. Fires burned in small pockets. Electrical wires sparked and hissed. The air was thick with smoke and the smell of burning plastic. Do-hyun could barely see where he was going. He just moved toward the sound of Yuna's voice. His broken bones ground against each other with every movement. He could feel them shifting inside his body. Wrong. Horrible. The pain made him want to scream, but he did not have the breath to scream. He needed all his breath just to keep moving. Blood left a trail behind him. He was bleeding from too many places to count. His body was telling him to stop. His brain was telling him to stop. Every survival instinct he had was telling him to lie down and wait for rescue, but rescue might not come in time. The fire was spreading. He could see the orange glow getting brighter. He could feel the heat getting stronger. If Yuna was trapped near the fire, she might only have minutes dot, so Do-hyun kept crawling. One arm forward, one leg pushing, inch by inch, breath by breath. The cockpit was maybe 50 meters away. It might as well have been 50 kilometers. But he would get there. He had to get there dot somewhere in the distance. He heard new sounds. Alarms from outside the ship. Voices speaking in languages he did not understand. The station's emergency responders were coming. That was good. That meant help was on the way. But Do-hyun did not slow down. He did not stop to wait for them. Because every second he waited was a second Yuna spent trapped and scared and maybe burning. He kept crawling. The darkness at the edges of his vision kept growing. But he kept crawling. Because giving up was not something Park Do-hyun knew how to do. The emergency team from Relay Station Omega 7 arrived fast. They were trained for disasters. They had seen crashed ships before. They had pulled bodies from wreckage many times. But none of them were ready for what they found inside the Starling's Hope. Dr. Tallis was the first through the broken hull. She was a Velen, which meant she had the body of a large insect. 6 legs, 2 arms. Compound eyes that could see in many directions at once. Her people were known across the galaxy as excellent doctors. They were calm in emergencies. They did not panic easily, but when Dr. Tallis saw the human crawling through the burning wreckage, she felt something close to panic. Her medical scanner beeped in her hands. The readings made no sense. She checked them again. Then she checked them a third time. The numbers did not change. This cannot be correct, she said to herself. Behind her came Lieutenant Vorn, a Morath rescue specialist. The Morath were tall beings with gray skin and 4 eyes. They were strong and logical. Vorn had saved many lives in his career. He had seen many injuries, but he had never seen anything like this. What is wrong? Vorn asked, looking at the scanner. Dr. Tallis pointed at the human on the floor. That creature has 17 broken bones. 17. Look at the scan yourself. Vorn took the scanner and read the display. Fractured femur. That was the big bone in the leg. Broken in 2 places. Multiple rib fractures. At least 6 ribs cracked or shattered. Broken collarbone. Fractured vertebrae in the spine. Broken arm in 2 places. Cracked bones in the hand. A fractured pelvis. 17 separate breaks. The scanner showed all of them in bright red on the body outline. He should be dead, Vorn said quietly. He should at least be unconscious, Dr. Tallis agreed. No Velen could remain awake with this much skeletal damage. No Morath either. The pain alone should have shut down his nervous system. But the human was not dead. The human was not unconscious. The human was crawling across the floor, leaving a trail of blood behind him. Moving toward the front of the ship where the cockpit waited. Dr. Tallis ran forward, her 6 legs carrying her quickly over the debris. Human, you must stop. You must cease movement immediately. The human did not stop. He did not even look at her. He just kept pulling himself forward with his one working arm. His face was covered in sweat and blood. His jaw was clenched so tight that the muscles in his neck stood out like ropes. His eyes were focused on something ahead, something only he could see. Human. Dr. Tallis tried again, moving to block his path. Your skeletal structure is compromised beyond safe parameters. If you continue moving, you risk permanent damage. You risk death. Now the human looked at her. His eyes were red from the smoke. Tears of pain ran down his cheeks. But his voice was steady when he spoke. There's someone in there, he said. The pilot. She's trapped. Get out of my way or help me. Dr. Tallis's compound eyes blinked in confusion. She could not understand what she was seeing. In her medical training, she had learned about different species and their pain tolerances. Humans were known to be tougher than most, but this was beyond anything in her textbooks. The fire suppression team will reach the cockpit, she said. You do not need to. How long? The human interrupted. What? How long until they reach her? Dr. Tallis checked her communication device. The fire is blocking the main corridor. They are trying to find another path. Perhaps 10 minutes. Perhaps 15. The human laughed. It was not a happy sound. It was the laugh of someone who had heard a very bad joke. She doesn't have 15 minutes, he said. I can hear the fire. It's close to her. I can hear her screaming. He started crawling again. He moved around Dr. Tallis, like she was just another piece of debris in his way. Vaughn watched all of this with his 4 eyes wide open. In Morath culture, logic was everything. You assessed the situation. You calculated the risks. You made the smart choice. A smart choice here would be to let the medical team sedate this human and treat his injuries while the fire team rescued the pilot. But watching this broken human drag himself toward danger, Vaughn realized something. Sometimes logic was not enough. Sometimes there was something stronger. Doctor, Vaughn said slowly, I do not think we can stop him. We must. He will die. Perhaps. Vaughn moved forward to walk beside the crawling human. But I do not think he cares about that right now. Other rescue workers had gathered now. Velen medics, Morath engineers, a few members of other species that lived on the station. They all watched the human with expressions of shock and disbelief. The human ignored them all. His broken leg dragged uselessly behind him. His broken arm hung at his side at a terrible angle. Blood dripped from his mouth with every breath, which meant his broken ribs had probably punctured something inside. Every movement he made should have been impossible, but he kept moving, inch by inch, closer to the cockpit, closer to the fire, closer to the woman who needed him. Dr. Tallis watched helplessly as the human crawled past her. Her scanner kept beeping warnings. Elevated heart rate, dangerous adrenaline levels, internal bleeding detected, shock imminent. But shock did not come. Death did not come. The human just kept crawling. What are these creatures made of? One of the younger Velen medics whispered. Dr. Tallis had no answer. In all her years of medicine, she had never seen anything like this. She had never seen any being fight so hard against their own dying body. Vaughn looked down at the human with new respect in his 4 eyes. I will help him, he announced. Lieutenant, that is not wise. Perhaps not. Vaughn knelt beside the human and put one of his strong gray hands under the man's good arm. But it is the right thing to do. And sometimes that matters more than wisdom. Together, the Morath and the broken human moved toward the flames. The cockpit was worse than Dohyun had feared. Much worse. The front of the ship had taken the hardest hit during the crash. Metal walls were bent inward like paper. The viewing windows were shattered. Wires hung from the ceiling like dead vines, sparking and hissing. And everywhere there was fire. The flames had not reached the pilot's chair yet. But they were close. Maybe 5 meters away. Maybe less. The heat was so strong that Doan felt his skin burning just from being near it. And there, trapped under the collapsed navigation console, was Kim Yuna. She was alive. That was the first thing Do-hyun noticed. Her chest was moving. Her eyes were open. But she was in bad shape. The heavy console had fallen on her legs, pinning her to the floor. Blood pooled beneath her. Her face was pale and covered in sweat. Do-hyun? Her voice was weak, confused. Is that you? It's me. He dragged himself the last few meters to reach her side. Every movement sent waves of agony through his shattered body. I'm here. I'm going to get you out. Yuna looked at him. Really looked at him. Her eyes went wide with horror. Oh no, she whispered. Do-hyun, your leg. Your arm. You're hurt. You're really hurt. I know. You need help. You need a doctor. I know. He positioned himself beside the console that trapped her. But first, I need to get you out of here. The fire crackled and roared behind them. It was getting closer. Do-hyun could feel the heat on his back, could smell his own hair starting to singe. They had minutes, maybe less. Lieutenant Vorn arrived beside him, breathing hard from the heat. The Morath looked at the console, then at the fire, then at the injured humans. His logical mind was calculating. The console is heavy, Vorn said. But if we live together, we may be able to move it. Then let's do it. Do-hyun grabbed the edge of the console with his one working hand. Human, you cannot lift. Your injuries, I can still pull. You lift, I pull her out. We do this fast. Vorn wanted to argue. This was insane. The human should be unconscious. The human should be dead. The human definitely should not be attempting a rescue operation. But there was no time for arguments. The fire was too close. Very well, Vorn said. He positioned his strong gray hands under the console. Do-hyun looked at Yuna. This is going to hurt. She managed a small, pained smile. I know. Do it anyway. On 3, Do-hyun said. 1, 2, 3. Vorn lifted with all his strength. The Moraths were not the strongest species in the galaxy, but they were strong enough. The console rose a few inches. Just a few inches, but it was enough. Do-hyun grabbed Yuna under her arms and pulled. His broken ribs screamed at him. His fractured spine sent lightning bolts of pain through his entire body. His shattered leg twisted wrong as he moved, and he felt something inside it tear. But he did not let go. He did not stop pulling. Yuna screamed as her crushed legs dragged free from under the console. The sound was terrible. Do-hyun would remember that scream for the rest of his life. But it meant she was out. It meant she was free. Vorn dropped the console with a crash. He was breathing hard, his gray skin darker with effort. But his 4 eyes were fixed on the human with something like wonder. You did it, Vorn said. Do-hyun did not answer. He was too busy holding Yuna, making sure she was really free, really alive. Her legs were badly damaged. He could see that even without medical training. But damaged was not dead. Damage could be fixed. We need to move, Do-hyun gasped. The fire. The flames had spread while they worked. They were now only 3 meters away. The heat was unbearable. Sparks flew through the air like angry insects. Vorn grabbed Yuna and lifted her in his arms. She weighed nothing to his Morath strength. I will carry her. Can you move? Do-hyun tried to push himself up. His body refused. His muscles had nothing left to give. His broken bones had shifted too much. The edges of his vision were going dark. I don't... He could not finish the sentence. Then I will carry you both. Vorn shifted Yuna to one arm and reached down with the other to grab Do-hyun. No. Do-hyun shook his head weakly. You can't carry 2. Just take her. Get her out. I will not leave you here. I'm not asking. Do-hyun's voice was barely a whisper now. Please, take her. Keep her safe. That's all that matters. Warren looked at the human on the floor, broken, bleeding, dying, and still thinking only of someone else. In that moment, Vaughn understood something about humans that no textbook could teach. They were not just physically tough. They were something more. Something his language did not have a word for. I will return for you, Vaughn promised. I swear it on my family's honor. Okay. Do-hyun closed his eyes. I'll wait. Vaughn ran. He carried Yuna through the smoke and the heat, his long legs covering ground fast. Behind him, the fire continued to spread. Behind him, a broken human lay alone in the wreckage, waiting to see if anyone would come back. Other rescue workers met. Vaughn at the entrance to the cockpit corridor. Dr. Tallis was there, her medical equipment ready. The pilot, Vaughn said, handing Yuna to a group of Vellum medics. Crushed legs. Needs immediate surgery. And the human male? Dr. Tallis asked. Still inside, near the fire. He could not move anymore. Vaughn grabbed a fire suppression tool from a nearby rack. I am going back. Lieutenant, the fire is too dangerous. I made a promise. Vaughn looked at the Vellum doctor with all four of his eyes. And I think I finally understand why he kept crawling. Some things are worth the risk. He ran back into the smoke before anyone could stop him. 30 seconds later, he emerged carrying Do-hyun's broken body. The human was unconscious now. Finally, mercifully unconscious. But he was alive. Against all logic, against all odds, he was still alive. Dr. Tallis rushed forward with her team. Get him to the medical bay immediately. Full emergency protocols. I want every scanner, every tool, everything we have. As they carried both humans away, Vaughn stood in the corridor and watched the fire consume what was left of the cockpit. He thought about what he had seen today. He thought about 17 broken bones and a man who would not stop moving. He thought about what it meant to care about someone so much that your own death became unimportant. Remarkable, he said quietly to himself. Absolutely remarkable. The medical bay of Relay Station Omega-7 was the most advanced facility in this sector of space. It had machines that could scan every cell in a body. It had tools that could repair broken bones in hours instead of weeks. It had doctors from a dozen different species, all trained to treat patients from across the galaxy. None of them had ever seen anything like. Park Do-hyun. Dr. Tallis stood over the unconscious human, reading her scanner results for the 10th time. The numbers had not changed. They still made no sense. 17 fractures, she said aloud, mostly to herself. 6 ribs. Femur in 2 places. Tibia, collarbone, 2 vertebrae. Arm in 2 places. 3 bones in his hand. Pelvis crack. Nurse Kale, a young Valen male, looked up from his own scanner. Doctor, that is not the strangest part. What do you mean? Look at his brain activity during the rescue. Kale pulled up a recording from the biosensors that had been tracking Do-hyun since the emergency team found him. His pain receptors were fully active the entire time. He felt everything. Every broken bone. Every movement. Full pain. No numbing. No shutdown. Dr. Tallis's compound eyes moved to look at the data. In most species, the brain would protect itself from extreme pain. It would shut down, cause unconsciousness, or at least reduce the signals. This was basic survival. The body protected the mind from trauma. But the human brain had done none of these things. It had let him feel everything. And he had kept moving anyway. How? Dr. Tallis whispered. How is this possible? I accessed the human medical database, Kale said. They have something called adrenaline. It is a chemical their bodies make during danger. It makes them stronger and faster and helps them ignore pain. Many species have similar chemicals. The Morath have something comparable. But those chemicals cannot override 17 broken bones. No, they cannot. Kale paused, thinking about how to explain what he had learned. But humans also have something else. The database calls it many things: will, determination, stubbornness, the refusal to accept defeat. Those are not medical terms. No, Doctor. I do not think they are meant to be. Dr. Tallis looked down at the human on the bed. He looked so fragile now, so broken. His leg was in a regeneration cast, the machines working to rebuild his shattered femur. His chest was wrapped in healing bandages. His arm was suspended in a special frame that would help the bones fuse correctly. Tubes carried medicine into his body. Monitors beeped with his vital signs. He should be dead. By every medical standard she knew, he should be dead, or at least permanently damaged. But the scan showed that his bones were already beginning to heal. Human bones, she had learned, could actually rebuild themselves over time. Another impossibility to add to the list. His heart rate is stabilizing, another medic reported. Blood pressure returning to normal ranges. Internal bleeding has stopped. How long was he conscious? Dr. Tallis asked. During the rescue, how long did he stay awake? Kale checked the records. From the moment of the crash until Lieutenant Vorn carried him out of the cockpit. Almost 45 minutes. 45 minutes. With 17 broken bones, moving, crawling, pulling another person free from wreckage. Dr. Tallis made a sound that was her species' version of disbelief. In my 200 years of medicine, I have never seen anything like this. The door to the medical bay opened. Lieutenant Vorn walked in, his gray skin still marked with soot from the rescue. He looked tired but determined. How is he? Vorn asked. Alive, Dr. Tallis answered. Against all logic, alive. And a female? The pilot? Kim Yuna is in surgery. Her legs were badly crushed, but we believe we can save them. She will walk again, eventually. Vorn nodded slowly. He walked to the side of Do-hyun's bed and looked down at the unconscious human. He kept asking about her, even when he could barely breathe, even when his bones were grinding inside his body. He kept asking if she was safe. They must be mated, one of the Velen medics suggested. A pair bond would explain why he risked so much. Vorn shook his head. I do not think so. When I carried her out, she kept calling him her friend. Not her mate, just her friend. The room went quiet. Everyone thought about what that meant. This human had destroyed his own body, had pushed through pain that should have killed him, had crawled through fire and smoke and wreckage, not for a mate, not for family, but for a friend. Perhaps, Dr. Tallis said slowly. We do not understand humans as well as we thought we did. No, Vorn agreed. I think you are right. Hours passed. Do-hyun remained unconscious as the machines worked on his body. His bones slowly began to knit back together. His internal injuries healed faster than anyone expected. Human biology, the doctors were learning, was remarkably good at fixing itself. News spread through the station. Everyone wanted to hear about the human who had walked with 17 broken bones. Velen workers whispered about it in the corridors. Morath engineers discussed it during their shifts. Other species, ones who had never met a human before, asked questions and listened with amazement to the answers. Dr. Tallis filed her medical report with the Galactic Medical Council. She described everything she had witnessed. The injuries, the impossibility of continued movement, the eventual rescue and recovery. She marked the case as anomalous and requiring further study, but she also added a personal note at the end, something she had never done before in her long career. Recommendation: do not underestimate humans. Do not assume that physical limitations will stop them. When a human decides that something matters, they will find a way to achieve it. Logic does not apply. Medical science does not apply. They simply refuse to accept failure. I do not fully understand this. I am not sure anyone can. But I have seen it with my own eyes, and I believe it deserves respect. She saved the file and sent it. Then she went back to watching over her impossible patient, waiting for him to wake up, curious to meet the man who had taught her something new after 200 years of medicine. 3 weeks passed on Relay Station Omega-7. Life continued as it always did. Ships came and went. Workers did their jobs. The wreckage of the Starling's Hope was cleared away and recycled into new materials. But the story of what happened inside that broken ship did not fade. It spread. Park Do-hyun woke on the 18th day. His eyes opened slowly, and for a long moment he did not know where he was. The ceiling was unfamiliar. The sounds were strange. His body felt heavy and distant, wrapped in bandages and connected to machines. Then he remembered. The crash. The fire. The crawling. Yuna. The name came out as a croak. His throat was dry from weeks of not speaking. She is alive. Do-hyun turned his head carefully. Every movement still hurt, but it was a dull hurt now, not the screaming agony from before. Sitting beside his bed was Lieutenant Vorn, the gray-skinned Morith who had helped him in the cockpit. She is in the recovery ward, Vorn continued. Her legs are healing well. The doctors say she will walk again in a few months. Something loosened in Do-hyun's chest. The tension he had been holding even in his unconscious state finally released. She was alive. She was going to be okay. Everything else was just details. Thank you, Do-hyun said, for going back for me. You didn't have to do that. Vorn made a sound that might have been a laugh. I made a promise. Besides, after watching you crawl through fire with 17 broken bones, leaving you behind did not feel like an option. 17? Do-hyun tried to process that number. I thought it was bad, but 17? Your doctors were quite impressed. They used words like impossible and unprecedented. Vorn leaned forward slightly. They said you should have died, or at least passed out from the pain. But you kept moving. I had to. It seemed so simple to die in. Yuna was in trouble. Yes, that is what I told them. But I do not think they fully understood. The door to the recovery room opened, and a hover chair floated in. Sitting in it was Kim Yuna, her legs wrapped in the same kind of healing casts that cover parts of Do-hyun's body. Her face was thin and pale from weeks of recovery, but her eyes were bright when she saw him awake. You're up, she said, guiding her chair to his bedside. Finally. I've been waiting forever. Sorry, I was tired. Yuna laughed, but there were tears in her eyes. You idiot. You absolute idiot. Do you have any idea what you did? Do you have any idea how stupid that was? You were in trouble. I was trapped. The rescue teams would have gotten to me eventually. The fire was close. You might not have had eventually. Yuna reached out and took his hand. Her grip was gentle, careful of his healing bones. The doctors showed me the scans. 17 broken bones, Do-hyun. 17. You crawled almost 50 meters with 17 broken bones. You should be dead, but I'm not. No, you're not. She squeezed his hand tighter. Because you're too stubborn to die. That's what Dr. Tala said. She said humans are too stubborn to know when they should give up. Is that a compliment? I think so. Coming from her, probably yes. They sat together in silence for a while. Vorn watched them, thinking about the connection between these two humans. They were not mates, not family, just friends. Yet this man had risked everything for her, had broken his body and ignored his pain and crawled through fire because she needed him. The Morith did not have a concept like this. In his culture, such sacrifice would only make sense for blood relatives or sworn partners. But humans were different. They could form bonds of loyalty and love that went beyond logic, beyond family, beyond anything Vorn's people understood. "I have to return to my duties," Vorn said, standing up. "But I wanted to be here when you woke. I wanted to tell you something." Dohyun looked at him. "What?" "In my long career, I have seen many acts of courage, but I have never seen anything like what you did. You have changed my understanding of what is possible." Vorn straightened his tall gray form in what Dohyun recognized as a gesture of respect. "I am honored to have helped you, Park Dohyun. If you ever need assistance again, you have only to ask." The Morith left. Yuna and Dohyun were alone. "You've made quite an impression on people," Yuna said. "Everyone on the station is talking about you. They're calling you the human who would not stop. That's not a very good name." "Maybe not, but it's accurate." She smiled at him, and despite everything, despite all the pain and fear and recovery still to come, Dohyun smiled back. Word of what happened spread beyond Relay Station Omega-7. Ships carried the story to other stations, other planets, other systems. The tale changed a little with each telling, as stories do, but the core remained the same. A human with 17 broken bones, crawling through fire to save a friend. A species that did not know how to give up. The Galactic Medical Council added new sections to their human biology files. They documented human adrenaline responses, pain tolerance, bone regeneration, and something they struggled to define but ultimately called determination coefficient. They noted that humans should never be assumed to be incapacitated based on injury alone. Other species listened to the story and reacted in different ways. Some were impressed. Some were frightened. Some thought it was exaggerated. But everyone agreed on one thing. Humans were not like other species. There was something inside them, something fierce and unstoppable, that made them dangerous to underestimate. Back on Omega-7, Dohyun and Yuna slowly recovered. Their bones healed. Their strength returned. After 3 months, Dohyun was walking again. After 4 months, Yuna was too. They got jobs on the station while they saved money for a new ship. Dohyun worked in the engineering base. Yuna worked in the flight control center. They saw each other every day, shared meals together, talked about the future and what they would do next. And sometimes, late at night, when the station was quiet and the stars shone through the viewing windows, Dohyun would think about that day in the wreckage. He would remember the pain, the fear, the certainty that his body was broken beyond repair. He would remember crawling through the smoke, dragging himself toward the sound of Yuna's voice. He did not feel like a hero. He did not feel special or brave or remarkable. He just felt like a man who had done what needed to be done. But maybe that was the point. Maybe that was what made humans different. They did not need to feel special to do special things. They just needed a reason, a purpose, something worth fighting for. Park Do-hyun had found his reason in the smoke and fire of a dying ship. And he would never forget it. Not ever.